kidding me? Is that what it sounded like? Yeah. Stay freaking put. Just stay there. Is this really that difficult? Just freaking stay there. Greetings, Ranger fans! Jake back again for more Power Reviews. Where I am revisiting Database Rangers Power Reviews and looking at, doing my commentary on what it was like putting together this series. These are episodes from over 8 years ago, and I'm going to be looking over what it was like working on them. So just to check in, I see I've already got a few people here on the stream. Hi there, Sheree. Hey, Chris. Hey, Jenny C. For once, I'm not trying to simultaneously plug a charity live stream, so that's nice. All right, just adjusting my mic levels. Looked like they were a little wacky there. Hopefully everyone's get. There we go. I just hopefully I just eliminated the echo. Yep, sorry, I was getting a little echo there. I realized I had somehow both audio sources active at the same time. Not quite sure how that happened. Okay, good. So that fixed things. Excellent. So, yes, this is week 3. We're back at our normal 8 o'clock time. We're going to be continuing this throughout another 97 weeks. We got this. Remember the days when I was first doing this. So, yeah, I still have a bit of a weird setup. I'm hoping at some point I'll be able to find a better solution than simply pointing the separate camera at the television. But we are going to be taking a look at episode 3 of Database Rangers Power Reviews, where we review Power Rangers Samurai episode 20. Origins, Part 2. So, if you guys are ready to go, so am I. Let's dive right into Power Reviews Episode 3. And hitting play. You see, back then I was leaning heavily on the narrator voice, always actually recapping things, and I did first introduce my ending on a what with that episode as well, to kind of set up what I would later do, where almost every episode would end on a what before, to sort of indicate the cliffhanger that would then get picked up next time. I did try loading the video into OBS, but unfortunately, because this is a 2015 MacBook that we're currently working on, it slowed things way down for the computer, and somehow pointing the camera at it works better. It's still very bizarre how Samurai was handled, because these were the last 2 episodes released, Origins Part 1 and 2 during the during the course of the original run of the series. Oh, and right around that time was when 2012 Ninja Turtles had only just come out. Oh, we're not getting the episode's audio? Let me adjust. Hopefully you can hear the audio of the episode now. Hopefully that's a little bit better. That was there were some blatant references going on to pop culture in those early episodes. So hopefully, yeah, I know before the audio was a little too low. Now I'm having it too high. So it's just like those early episodes of Power Reviews. This is very much sort of we're figuring it out with each new experience. And that's right. This was the introduction of Bulk and Spike, or the proper introduction. Obviously, they were in the first episode. It is hilarious that they actually put him in the same costume that he wore back during the first season. And you know what? I never did really pick back up on exactly what happened to Bulk, how he ended up here. And considering that that it is laid out in within the timeline of Power Reviews, that we do have a split timeline that allows for Bulk to both be on Miranoi in one timeline and be on Earth in the other, which I always found was rather helpful. And of course, oh man, I used the picture from the pie incident. I know I've talked about the pie incident on this channel before, but that image was from Power Morphicon 2012, when I was the moderator for that panel, where they decided to have an impromptu pie in the face workshop, and it did not go well. It got me in some trouble because I did not stop them from doing that, because everybody thought I would be fine, and then we thought for like 30 seconds more, it's like, oh wait, we have volunteers throwing pies. This can't possibly result in anything other than thousands of dollars in damages to conventional soft walls. Anyway. So hello to Omega Res, Devious, and Aronde. Hello, Scott. Sorry I didn't say hi before. And there's some explosions. But yeah, this one was really, as far as Power Reviews went, I was really starting to just try to lean into a few of the recurring gags starting to get in place, and looking at how things work as a whole. So this was sort of the context that we were missing in the Team Unites. Part 1 and Part 2 of Origins were, the sources of context that we were complaining about in that first episode. And so as I'm, going through this, I am trying to specifically place emphasis on the value of the additional context, which came more into play in Origins Part 1 than Part 2. But that I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself. My conclusion really sort of focused more on that. Still can't hear the television. That's fascinating. I know that. I'll turn it up.
I mean, it's no pure minus, but it's something. The team decides to take Jaden's lead.
It's funny revisiting these episodes. I haven't seen them in so long. The giant Mooger fights were great. As much as
awesome
as I've
and
said before, I
strength
have
of the
plenty of
samurai,
issues with
and they're perfectly
Samurai.
dispatched.
There were
Legions formed
definitely
out
some
with
very
no
nice
defense against the
stylistic
Megazord's
elements to the
samurai
source
strength.
material.
The battle won, the Rangers return home and reassure Emily that she's not a total screw-up. You did great, Emily. Just to clarify, brush strokes in the wrong order.
Mike, you must practice more.
Get the whole team knocked out by a monster attack. You did great, Emily.
Yeah,
Noticing a disconnect here?
yeah, there was
Mike decides to celebrate
little
by showing
bits
off
of.
his new samurai symbol. Which obviously
First season of Samurai definitely had a lot of awkwardness as they were trying to sort of reintroduce the show while also
So what did I think?
being
Well, overall,
incredibly strangely faithful to the original material.
And over onto the rest of our cast. Now I know I said that the search for Emily had no real bearing on the rest of the episode.
Now this is
that's kind of true.
now this is nice. This is where I found an opportunity to sort of set up how foreshadowing plays out within the show.
Just how much setup there is. The most obvious thing
So,
about the subplot is Emily's relationship with her sister.
yeah, this got followed up in a later episode. This was also a really good way for me to sort of recap what had been happening in Samurai, because I wanted to move Samurai quickly because I wanted to try and do Megaforce as it was coming out, which I did manage to do for the most part. Super Megaforce was where I started to fall behind. But yeah, there was a lot of setup in this episode that ended up already having been paid off in episodes we'd already seen. It was one of the weird sort of backwards nature of Samurai.
So we see Mike's disregard for training and discipline, which majorly ties into the plotline of the Team Unites. This early character arc is also bookended by the fact that he can't get a samurai symbol.
It was so strange that this episode really showed off the beginnings of a lot of character arcs that we saw carried through, but we never got to see them. But we didn't get to see the beginnings of until the very end, and it was very obvious that it wasn't structured that way, not intentionally by the writers. The release schedule made it very strange. And wow, I spoke through this so quickly.
More like Kevin Bacon's choice, everything's connected.
I was so genuinely out of breath.
Delusions of conspiracy.
And yes, when I had Dr. K say delusions of conspiracy, you know, I knew that the alphabet soup plotline would be coming up later. So it made perfect sense for me to kind of play it as you know, something that we're making fun of here.
She just said that, and I bet it tasted terrible. I am amazed at all the little character arcs that I didn't even know were arcs the first time through.
Yeah.
Like I said in my review of the Team Unites, decontextualization can be a huge
And
problem.
that was me really trying to focus on context is important.
Now, should these episodes be able to stand on
So-
their own merits? Of course. But shows nowadays are designed to be enjoyed on two levels, episodically and as a series.
This was me kind of being very meta without being obvious about it.
So, if you're somebody who has only watched
I was trying to emphasize that series are supposed to have arcs throughout while still also being enjoyed episodically, because these seemed very episodic at the time, these episodes of Power Reviews, where, you know, there's not too much to talk about in some of these because I'm really just sitting in a chair talking. But I'm trying to lay the groundwork for what the show will later be. It is going to be something that has serialization, that has things that you can enjoy on multiple levels.
Even if they are a bit weak on internal logic. However, as
close that little
individual episodes,
pad there in
they
the corner.
really don't stand well on their own, heavily relying on clumsy expositional
Oop. What just happened? Hey, wait.
dialogue, which
Okay,
doesn't
just a little
translate
buffer there.
smoothly from its Japanese source material. Plus, there's a real lack of an internal arc to these episodes, with no defined sense of rising conflict or conclusion.
Yeah, and I really was.
That all this setup will pay off later.
All throughout Power Reviews, I've always tried to focus on.
Skipping back to the episodes that lead us into Power Rangers Super Samurai.
I was always trying
Hanging Gate and Box
to
Day.
focus on the structure of the
I may
episodes,
have an extra little
how the
treat for you
story-
guys in the meantime.
how the story
Until then,
is structured, how
farewell,
well
Ranger fans,
it's
and
structured, how
Ranger Power Rangers.
effectively it tells its story, and the character arcs within it. Because those were the things that I wanted to focus on in my series. And so I'm not going to let it skip ahead to the next one. So let's come back over here and look at a few questions over, see if there are any questions in the chat. So someone was asking, would it be weird to think of Bulk as being the reincarnation of Zordon? That would be a fun thing, but you know, the problem is, of course, reincarnations generally happen after someone has passed away. Now, in the case of Zordon, he'd already lost his corporeal body centuries ago, so reincarnation on that front, a little dicey. But I do like the interpretation that we were having during the live streams of Bulk and Skull being sort of eternally recurring entities in Angel Grove, and Angel Grove being sort of a nexus of ley lines that's constantly shifting and will always have a Bulk and Skull. So, yeah, there's a few episodes in here where it's definitely very light on what I'm introducing. You know, these episodes were also much shorter than what I do now, where I'm looking at 22 minutes per episode. Back then, it was really, you know, this one was only 11 and a half minutes. This one was the shortest episode. Each episode at this point was shorter than the last one. You know, the first episode was 18 minutes, and we had like 12 and a half. This one was only 11 and a half. And it really came down to I didn't have that much story that I wanted to put in yet. So it was all just focused on the review itself. And for some of these samurai episodes, there was very little to really dig into. Although I did always try to find something of interest. In this case, how I could connect the premiere to all the little plot points that would later happen, or in this case, the delayed premiere to all the plot points that had already happened. Tense gets very confusing there. And like I said before, I wanted to move through Samurai quickly, so I tried to pick whichever episodes felt most relevant. When I first premiered Power Reviews, it was just as Super Samurai was coming back from its hiatus. So I was sort of trying to get myself caught up to those episodes. And I'm like, okay, what do I need? I need the first episode, of course. I want the 2-part premiere, and during that I can really catch people up on the plot if they haven't been watching Samurai and are looking at it just through the lens of Power Reviews, or if they haven't been watching Power Rangers at all and are using Power Reviews as an introduction to the series, which was really my focus in these early episodes. So, you know, here I just recapped a bunch of character plot points. The next episode after this will be the Halloween episode, where part of it was I just wanted to do something fun for Halloween, and part of it was because it was a clip show and it seemed like a great opportunity to continue to get people caught up on the previous season. Now, over here, let's see. If Samurai was part of later Power Reviews, Landlord would have killed TV's publishing dreams, absorbed them, and become more vulnerable because of it. That is fair. That is very similar to what happened with Xandrid, and in later Power Reviews, I do sort of create a juxtaposition of the plot lines. And that was something that sort of grew as the show developed. It wasn't always going to function quite that way. There was always going to be sort of a merging of universes. But as far as the juxtaposition of plot lines, it really came down to how to keep the reviews relevant as the show became more and more intertwined with the Power Rangers universe. You know, as we have more and more adventures, how can you justify the characters still reviewing episodes? And so I really wanted to, in the early episodes, just sort of establish this as part of Database Ranger's life. This is what he does. This is how he processes things. And that will continue to carry through to when he's having all these crazy adventures, not sitting down and watching the TV, but just trying to process his life and he can only process it through the lens of Power Rangers. And, when you spend all these early episodes with him, seeing him do that from episode to episode when he doesn't even have a life yet, and just is learning how to, try and make a life for himself, it feels natural that he's still going to keep coming back to those reviews over and over and over again. When did I stop putting the word context into every episode? That's the thing. I was writing these episodes so quickly that I wouldn't always remember to put in every single detail that I wanted to include. So I forget exactly when it was that context fell out of use as a keyword. It was still very prominent here, where I was talking explicitly about decontextualization. But I want to say, maybe probably somewhere around the Alphabet Soup arc, I started to lose track of it as the plot itself really picked up. And was I really struggling on figuring out Samurai? I was, to an extent. I was trying to... When Samurai first came out, I was really struggling with what my feelings were regarding it. And I did get more and more frustrated with it as that first season went on. And I kind of wanted to really capture, in these first few episodes, how I felt about it. And that was, having that huge amount of enthusiasm in the first episode. And then across the course of these reviews of Samurai, you just sort of see me becoming more and more frustrated as Database Ranger, to the point where I'll start ranting and raving at the show within the next few episodes. This is where I'm starting to become, I was a little bit confused on the first one, then I become a little bit frustrated in the second one, a little bit more frustrated in the third one. Episode 4, where I do the Halloween special, I get a little bit of false hope to an extent. It's also just a lot of fun to have a Halloween episode. I really want to structure the show in a similar vein to Power Rangers, which is why the next one will be the holiday special, because they had holiday specials as part of their series. So, did I ever think about doing the reviews in the order they aired instead of doing the Origins episode here at the beginning? I considered it briefly. I was like, okay, what episodes do I want these early episodes to be? With the first couple episodes, it's like, okay, do I just jump into what's currently airing, or do I want to give some context for it? And I'm like, okay, I want to give context. I want to sort of start at the beginning as best I can. So I figured I would start with the first episode aired, and then the 2-part pilot from there. And there was some debate in my head, okay, do I want to try and go through Deal with a Nihilok, A Day Off, and all those episodes? And I wanted to make sure to, like I said, get caught up by the time of Megaforce. I wanted this to try and be a series that took a look at the most current episodes. And I wasn't going to be able to do that in a way that felt clean and natural until I got to Megaforce. So I wanted to sort of fast forward through Samurai, fast forward through the first half of Super Samurai, and then start getting caught up on the most recent episodes of Super Samurai as we went into Megaforce. So that was something I debated for a little bit, but ultimately decided this would be the cleanest way to give people a clear view of Samurai before the show moved on to Megaforce and before I went into doing the weekly challenge of, can I review an episode every week as it comes out and figure out how to incorporate it into my story as it comes out, which was a very fun challenge. I was usually only a little bit behind Megaforce as it was airing. I obviously fell more behind on Super Megaforce, but really that came down to less of a story issue and a writing issue and more of just a production issue. And yeah, sure, it makes sense that I might have stopped saying context around the time that I started getting context during the Alphabet Soup arc. So yeah, there were definitely a lot of challenges to make the show, what I wanted it to be, and to sort of find my voice as I was working through it. I felt like the humor of making fun of samurai, and while simultaneously analyzing it upside down and inside out, I felt like that carried through very well in these early episodes. As well as, the delusions of conspiracy from Dr. K, creating that slowly developing sort of background story of her analyzing Database Ranger's psyche to subtly indicate that there was something not quite right with this guy, which we get a little bit more of as we continue through year 0, and then obviously the next episode really sort of sets up a bunch of things that we end up getting later in the series. So, if I could go back and change anything about these older episodes, what would that be? Honestly, I wish that I knew how my editing software and my camera worked back at that time. I wish that I had a better understanding of my white balance, which was not very good in those early episodes, and how to properly, export and encode my videos so that they didn't have that, 4:3 aspect ratio that some of the early ones have. That was just due to an error, and I'm just like, no, I'm just going to get it out. I'm trying to do these things week to week. That was the challenge that I had set for myself. So I wasn't quite as focused on production quality and far more focused on trying to hit the challenge of the episode every week. Because I was basing things off of how, the Channel Awesome, that guy with the glasses style videos were done, which were very, guerrilla filming, shoestring budget. So I didn't feel like there was that much pressure. And then now there's a lot more professionalism in making YouTube videos, and I feel so, well, as ramshackle as the live stream setup is, I do feel like I've come a long way as far as the actual Power Reviews episodes, with the use of the green screen and the set and better lighting and far more variety in the shots and angles and characters, etc. So I do just basically wish I had worked more with my equipment ahead of time, but I was really trying to hit that schedule at the time. Which of course has completely fallen apart at this point, now that we're 8 years later on a 3.5-year series. But I still feel quite good about those, largely because of the humor and the fact that I did still manage to provide some level of solid analysis with the foreshadowing of what would come later. In this case, foreshadowing of what the structure of the series would be before I really dig into the foreshadowing of the story. So, I don't know if anyone else has any other questions. I hope that this has been an enjoyable analysis for you of me sort of analyzing myself. I doubt that my quips are quite so sharp, since this is all just me on the fly instead of writing all the jokes, etc. in advance. And then of course the show has become far less jokey in more recent episodes, but I try to still sneak in that humor where I can. And then how much of the current story would I say fits my original ideas? Well, my earliest ideas, before I had year 3 in mind, I'd say that I grew pretty far away from that once I realized. By the time that I filmed the second episode, it had grown away from what my very early ideas were. And I started thinking a little bit about, okay, people seem to have enjoyed this first episode. I am going to try for that Phantom Ranger arc, and then see where the story in my mind naturally goes to. There were a number of plot points that definitely got dropped away. As far as where the story is now, I did pretty much, as soon as I came up with the idea that I wanted to have a year 3, I knew that year 3 was going to be on a spaceship. So those ideas, the broad outlines of year 3, definitely were in mind. And it's tricky to say how much something fits an original idea, just because the original ideas are so amorphous. And then the more you think about them, the more they take shape. And as they took shape, it became very much what we ended up seeing on the screen. And we'll continue to explore those week by week over the course of this 100-week retrospective of Power Reviews. That being said, I think we're about good to wrap up for today, or this evening. I look forward to seeing you guys again, seeing all of you again in the chat for next week, as we take a look at episode 4 of Power Reviews and the very first Halloween special, which is fun times in my book. So until then, farewell, Ranger fans, and let the power protect you.